Thanks, guys. Today we're going to talk about the fishing industry on the East End, how it's been affected by COVID and how it's been coping, and where we are today. Joining us as our special guest on Facts at 5 is Captain Peter Haskell. He's a commercial fisherman and the founder of Haskell's Seafood in East Quogue. There's a lot of business out in the East End and Long Island. Peter, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Angela. Very nice to be here.
Very nice to see you. I consider you a friend of LTV. I've had your delicious fish concoctions, I would call them, when we had our LTV's salons, and you were generous enough to donate some great seafood. And we met you through Tia Green, who does a wonderful show called Savor the Moments. And I know we're still talking about going on a fishing expedition together. I want to do that. But tell me, basically, where you are with this. I know COVID has been very challenging. A lot of fishermen and women were, almost out of business, catching fish and having nowhere to go with it. Walk us back through what happened in March and where you guys are now.
Sure. Yeah. To rewind the tape a bit, this season in particular, the shellfish season for bay scallops was not a strong one to begin with before COVID. So our industry was entering the season without some of the normal sources that we might have in general. Once we approached March, it was a time where it was kind of a gut punch at that point, because the fisheries start to get more active as we approach the spring. And really what happened was that the COVID hit, the market kind of seized. It was just this knee-jerk reaction where things came to a halt. But at the same time, you could see in the grocery stores, there was a lack of food. So not only was it an emergency type moment, but it was also a point at which you knew it was a logistical problem. So our approach out of the gate was to quickly redesign our logistics that were in place to take our emphasis off of wholesale, which obviously was first affected, and start to reach our community with local seafood, because I've always believed that a community can be resilient if you're using the resources that are around you. And I guess it was quick to see that we needed to kind of insulate that way. So getting that program rolling, I think for us was a good start, is to take all those services that we had, like the refrigerated vehicle, create a program where we could arrive to one's front door without any person-to-person interaction. We would deliver the fish, take the credit card over the telephone, and the driver would actually alert the customer after the package was dropped that it was there for pickup. So we tried to, I think as every business is doing early on, create an insulated, safe way to get food to people, especially those who were most challenged getting out to a store. My parents, I was concerned about at that time, and I was thinking about, different groups of people that really shouldn't be out and about. And if we could reach them and make life a little easier, I thought there might be comfort in that too. So that's how our program started.
Were you able to do that because of how you were set up? Because I think there are a lot of people who fish out there for a living, but weren't able to do that. Why were you able to do that? Because you had the facility, you had the truck, is it a license? I just want to understand the whole picture.
To give you a little bit more of a debriefing on how that might happen. Again, I am a commercial fisherman that acquired a dealer's permit years and years ago. And over time, we've developed our program to become multifaceted. So we have a lot of different outlets. And as time goes on, it's more demanding in the facility as well, and it grows. So I felt it was a call to action. We had the facility, we had the licenses, we have the food safety intact. To me, it was a real call to action to use those things and put them where it was best suited. And in the process, we wanted to also reach out to as many local fishermen as we could. As you may or may not know, we're committed to only working with local seafood to begin with that's landed on Long Island. So in that process, not only did we continue working with the relationships that we've had, but we met a lot more people. So that could be even a silver lining, is that we had even more fishermen that we were working with that we met under different circumstances, from Montauk out to Moriches. And, I think to get back to your question is that it really, at that moment in time, it took real agility. And I think we were fortunate to have the logistics that we did.
Yeah. So tell me in general, the the industry right now? I mean, obviously, a lot of restaurants are limited to just takeout, curbside, or takeout if they're even delivering. Do you service? What are you guys doing, and what are people in general out there doing in terms of catching fish and getting fish to people?
Yeah, the
What
restaurant
is it? What is the
industry,
business? How does it change? Like, yeah.
well, significantly changed. Nothing is easy. Let's say that. I feel like everything we do takes maybe 3 or 4 times the effort to execute because it's not in a normal setting. And again, that goes back to logistics and that ability to actually change things quickly. I think that's why bigger companies in the food industry, whether it's produce or anything, are having trouble kind of turning that super tanker to adjust. Restaurants, our accounts that we work with are doing takeout and they are online in a small capacity, though. That's very challenging for them as well. Um, I'd say that the greater industry is just doing its best every day to adapt and be able to accomplish the tasks at hand, and they kind of change every day.
So, if somebody wants to come into your shop, they can't right now. Is that right?
At our seafood shop, we do not let people in or out at the facility. When it comes to a delivery pickup, let's say if somebody wants to come to our seafood facility to pick something up, we bring the package out to the door and ask. There's a sign on the front that says, "Please call us in the office. We will come out to you." So at that point, someone may have placed an order. It's been fulfilled. They contact us when they're in our parking lot, actually, and somebody with a mask and gloves goes out to their vehicle and either places it in the trunk or hands it to them, whatever they prefer. But we're always exercising the proper precautions in that nature too. But our facility is closed to the public, although they have access to it.
Where do you primarily get your fish from? I know sometimes you're out in Montauk, and I know you're based in East Quogue, but how does that work?
Yeah. Well, Shinnecock is our home port, I would say, and we're located just minutes from the dock where we pick up a majority of our seafoods. And our relationships are more developed in our local area, obviously. We do work with fishermen in Montauk as well. Sometimes we're running our vehicle out to them. Sometimes they might deliver to us. Um, but we don't really put any limitation on who we're buying from other than it has to be landed on Long Island because that mission of ours really does support and champion the local aspect of our seafoods and supporting our community.
In terms of pricing, now I heard that for a period of time, the fish, gone really way down. But where are we now with that?
It's improved. I mean, again, nothing's normal, and I don't think it's going to be. I think that there's opportunities to adapt in ways where, market price, for instance, when things first hit, some of the fishermen in Shinnecock were getting returns that wouldn't actually allow them to go out and fish. And a return is, being paid for their catch. So I had meetings with a few captains about stabilizing that, knowing that if they can't get out, then we're all out of luck because if there's not enough income to put gas in the boat to pay the crew, it's actually going to seize our fleet. And as best we could, we reached as many as possible to establish a fair market price. So basically, the market wasn't going to necessarily allow activity, and we created a channel to do so through by keeping that price more regulated, more normalized, if you could say that.
Yeah. Tell me who you uh, get fish to. Do you ship things into New York City as well as the island, or I just want to understand how all that's working because I know the demand, obviously, from
Sure.
from places outlets in the city has changed too, since everything is still not open yet. Hopefully soon. Tell
Yeah.
me how that works and how that affects the local fishermen or out there.
Sure. I mean, it could be my perception, but it seems like the city has the most pressure on it right now, making it more difficult to have trade going back and forth, although it's happening. But a majority of our business is happening on Long Island. To give you an idea of the different markets that we work with and have created over the years, we're working with restaurants, we're working with markets on main highways that might have the ability to have refrigerated foods, so seafood does fit. We're working with retail, with home delivery. People are picking up. Yeah, our fishing is vibrant, and it's seasonal, so things change. Right, this week we're seeing sea bass has been very abundant.
Yeah.
The fluke landings have been good. Monkfish is another fish that we're working with. So these things change, and there's not a lack of landings by any means. And I think plugging in those channels for distribution are really the most important thing, which is a whole job in its own. It takes marketing, it takes relationships, and it takes processing that we do, and real talent and skill in those who are in the facility doing this work to put out a high quality product and truly represent the high quality of the fish. The people that are working behind the scenes, they're aces. They're people that have done it for a long time, who are incredibly good at what they do, and I think that encapsulates that higher end product, something that's going to be full of the quality that one might expect.
You seem like you've been very resourceful in terms of this pandemic. Some people have come through it in ways that have surprised us. What has been the greatest challenge for you, and how do you see things going forward, especially as we're now in this season? The summer season is right here.
Yeah, it's a very good question. I guess what's been most challenging, I kind of referred to it earlier, is that every step you're taking takes 3 or 4 times the effort, because we are reacting as well as adapting, as well as thinking things out in real time. Every day can be very different. It's not normal business. And I think having just an open mind, thinking outside the box, being flexible, um, taking on different challenges that you might not normally, has been probably the biggest challenge in staying in front of the curve of what's coming next. It's almost you've needed a little bit of a crystal ball to get from one week to another. What I see coming out of the epidemic is that I kind of see it as a sine wave, and you've got two of them crossing. So we've got this covoid situation that will decrease, but then normalcy is going to meet it somewhere. So when those two sine waves meet, it's going to be an interesting time. And I think that'll be challenging too, to get all of the normal things back online to the capacities that we've seen in the past, while continuing to manage the changes we've seen with the epidemic. So I predict that there will be a moment where everything's kind of happening at once. All that new type of work that we're doing is going to be met by some of the traditional things we've done. We've been asked by a lot of our customers, will we continue to do our home delivery even after the epidemic has passed? And I think it's been so successful and so appreciated by the public that we're definitely going to continue the service, but we're probably going to have to create a whole nother department in our company to manage home delivery, which is good. That's a success that came out of those experimentations and staying relevant to the moment. But those are all the things that I've seen and see coming, if I could best guess at this point.
How far across the East End are you delivering, and can we expect more of that? And I'm curious, not just from you, from other
Yep.
people. Do you think that that's going to be a business?
Original parameter or radius that we set on the program was within Southampton Township. Very quickly, we started to get calls outside of Southampton town. We were getting some calls from the east, from the west, and we allowed it to grow. We didn't want to stop anything. It was really, you had to start somewhere. So we said, well, Southampton town is a good shot to start with. We're now running as far as Montauk. And what's convenient too is that if we have a delivery in Montauk, it seems like a lot to get out there. But if we're also receiving seafood and bringing it back at the end of the day, that's how you make those connected things work. And that really supports what I was saying about just keeping an open mind and look at every challenge, if you could call it that, as an opportunity.
Well, we're glad to see that fishing is alive and well on the East End. It's obviously an important source of food and industry and business. And we're finding new ways to get that fish to people, which is great. Okay.
Thank you,
All right,
Angela.
Peter Haskell from Haskell Seafood. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.